Welcome to another episode or edition of Women of Consciousness and our podcast. Today, I'm super excited because I have, because it's just Pam again. I have a guest with me today, kind of waiting for her to hop on here in a few seconds, hopefully. But I am speaking with Lena, who is the founder of the Veterans Psychedelic Network. In previous episodes, I have discussed some of my own personal plant sacrament healing medicine journeys with psychedelics. And so I've kind of met Lena through that community earlier this year when she was a guest, or not a guest, I'm sorry, but when she was helping facilitate the main Fungi Fest. And so, are you with us, Lena? Because I see that you popped on.
Good morning, Pam. I'm here.
Brilliant.
Thank you
Awesome.
today.
Yay. We did
We
it.
did.
Okay, great. So excited to have you here with us.
I'm super excited to be here.
Yes. So I'm gonna kind of hand it over to you. I just kind of introed, a little bit about, that we come from this community of psychedelic healing and have met through that path. But I don't want to speak for you at all. So I definitely want to let you just kind of talk about yourself, your background, and the your nonprofit Veteran Psychedelic Network.
Thank you, Pam. Yes, I was in the military in 2011 and 12. Prior to that, I had worked as an addiction counselor and had a psychology degree, but nothing could have prepared me for joining the Army and immediately being deployed to Afghanistan at probably one of the most difficult times. It was a very difficult um, deployment where I was injured and I came back injured with physical issues. And immediately, because of going through the difficulty in deployment and then having to go through the military VA system, the answer was to throw a medication
Mm,
at me for absolutely everything. And this was back in 2012. So it was when opiates were at um,
mm,
a high level, the answer that everybody felt
yeah.
to pain and to issues. And I had had experience with people in my life, having cancer and whatnot, and had been on morphine. So I was kind of familiar with it, getting rid of the pain, and that was the answer. That was what the VA threw a lot at me.
Mm,
Um, I was at one point on about 120 milligrams of
yeah.
morphine per day, which is more than anybody I knew
Yeah.
that had cancer. And the list was long. I probably had 30 medications that I was taking a day. One for all the side effects for the other medications, and of course, um, one to stay awake, one to uh, one to stay awake, one to go to sleep, one to get rid of the pain. It was just an ongoing ongoing process, and it was no kind of life.
Absolutely.
Um, and I had family. When I got back from my deployment, I was going through the loss of both of my parents. It was just a lot, and I started having seizures from all of the medications that they had put me on, which is very understandable.
Right.
And I came to a crossroads where, I had to decide what to do, whether I was going to go forward and try to make the best of life or whether I didn't want to be there
Mm,
anymore. I had had so many veterans that I had known that had taken their lives because it just was no kind of life.
yeah.
And um, I had a friend that knew me previous to, any of my deployments, who was not military, who was really looking at options for me and came up with an ayahuasca retreat. And at that point, I had decided that it was, just best to get off all of the medication, which I did. And that was about a 2 to 3 month process. I didn't gain help with it. I just knew I couldn't continue to have seizures. And
Yeah.
my friend said, "You have to come with me to this retreat and you have to at least give this a try." And I didn't even know what it was. And I ended up going, and I ended up um, immediately feeling the effects of, wow, life is not so bad. Maybe I could actually do this.
Mm.
And that springboarded me into, I'm going to really focus on healing and making the best of what I have here. Um, and I determined rather quickly that there was a need to advocate for people,
Yes.
um, especially for veterans, to help them find um, possible alternatives to the system that was in place with the VA. It was a long road. It was a very, very long road, and I found myself moving to a forest in Maine just for the quiet. I just didn't feel like my healing was complete. And so I
Mm.
continued to do that through 2017, 19, 2021. Um, and I found that I had a story and that maybe my words could help some folks feel not so alone.
Oh, absolutely. The story part is so important to share. I agree.
Yeah, I think it is, because I think
Mm.
so many times veterans feel alone. And my job was military police. And I had had a background also. I had joined the military a little bit later in life. Um, so I was a little bit more um, able to kind of determine, where I was going and what I was going to do with military. And I had legal background. So I went in as an MP. And boy, the stigma in that group is incredible. And a lot of the military groups is, um, psychedelics are bad.
Mm.
Even when I was getting my psychology degree, we had been told that those were the absolute worst drugs you could possibly find yourself on.
Oh,
So,
wow.
just the stigma and the legalities really have kept people from, especially the veteran population, from thinking that they should start their journey in that way. We trust the government, we trust the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies, and at least I can speak for myself. I did for a very
Yeah.
long time. And back around 2023, I had begun to tell my story at many different places um, regarding my healing that I had found with ayahuasca. I was very much learning how to help other people. Um, and I started Veterans Psychedelic Network, a little Facebook group in my living room, just for a place where people could start beginning the conversation and educating themselves
Mm.
on psychedelics, what's out there,
Yeah.
what different healing modalities can you find that are alternative to getting stuck in the loop of the governmental medications that are out there. Um, the Facebook group grew. I started getting a lot of invitations to speak. I had a lot of veterans reaching out and telling me their story. And I found that there was just this real need to try to build a community
Mm.
of veterans. And our Veteran Psychedelic Network is definitely not just for a certain type of veteran or limited to veterans. I felt like um, our families and our friends were also affected,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and it was really important to incorporate family and friends. They were serving the time in the military that we were also serving.
Mm,
Um, so to kind of build a community where uh, everyone can participate and educate and learn about what modalities may be helpful for them. And it's kind of grown, Pam. The
mm.
group has kind of grown.
That's awesome. That's what you want, right?
Yes,
Get
yes.
that word out.
Yes, and we are, currently waiting and pending our nonprofit status, and we have speakers all over. We wrote our mission to be education, advocacy, and building this community. It's
Mm,
just so important to build the community as we're
yes.
on this psychedelic renaissance that you're aware of.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Like once you kind of find that path and you're called to it and you start healing, there is this like inner advocate that just comes out that really wants to like right just spread the word and let people know like this is okay and this is natural and there's so much beautiful healing and community that comes from this path.
That is so, so true.
Mm,
And what I have found with veterans sometimes is, we being in the military and in the different branches of service, we are taught to listen, to take the medication, to deal with the doctors, to we're also taught to drink a lot.
mm,
In my particular area, we had a lot of team building exercises in the military, and it was always based on mandatory fun. We had to be there, and there was always a drinking component of that.
mm,
Um, and so, understandably, a lot of veterans will turn to that, um,
mm,
rather than looking outside that box for anything else. And um, I think that it's just so imperative to try to break these cycles, not only for our friends and for our family, but for us, because there is life after the military. There can be life after um, horrific, horrible PTSD and deployments.
mm.
Um, and I'm not advocating for, using psychedelics without, integration and therapy.
Right.
Um, I think that's such an important part of this. um, and community. Community is just so important. Um,
I agree.
the
Yeah.
military is a community, Pam, and in a lot of cases, it's a dysfunctional community. Turning to drinking and playing off of each other's PTSD.
Mm,
Um, and it's hard to look outside of that. I can remember a time where I would be out, and if you weren't a veteran, I didn't want to talk to you. If you weren't in the military, I didn't want to have anything to do with you because nobody could possibly understand what I was going through unless you had lived that.
right. Yeah, it's trauma bonding, really.
It really
Absolutely.
it really is.
Mm,
And
it's self-medicating and yeah.
absolutely, absolutely self-medicate, and then they medicate you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and they medicate you. Um, and what I found is the communities that I'm finding, with plant medicine, are positive communities. Not always, but you're bonding, in a different kind of way. You're bonding over healing.
Mm,
You're lifting each other up. You're supporting each other in this, and um, the Facebook group is a way to just let all the veterans know and the family members that you're not alone,
right.
um, that you're just not alone. And just because I found my healing in ayahuasca, as you're aware, there's a many different plant medications and psychedelics out there now
Mm,
that they are discovering, have a lot of um, potential in giving people their lives back.
mhm.
Lives
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful resources of the plants. Yeah, I know. Like, have you done a psilocybin?
Absolutely.
You have. Okay.
Absolutely. I after my work with ayahuasca, and remember, I went to my first ceremony just based on a friend telling me you've got to try this. And when I went to my first retreat, I had no idea what I was getting into. And I knew it was something that I drank and that it was somewhat psychedelic in nature, but I had no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea any aspect of it,
Yeah.
including, aftercare. um, I can remember her sending me somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 pages permission slips and, descriptions, and, I had to do this
Mm.
crazy diet and,
Yep.
all of this kind of stuff. And, I didn't do it. I was like, you know what? She's lucky to get me there. Uh, I think we had I had this pact with her that if I went to this ceremony and I flew in and we drove up, together, and we went, that when I flew out, that I wanted one full day with her. And after the ceremony was over, the only thing I was focused on was, we are going to have margaritas in the airport. As long as you promise me that, we're good to go. And interestingly, a consequence of doing the ayahuasca was, the margaritas in the airport never happened.
Right.
The desire for that was completely gone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, completely gone. But because I never read the 10 pages she sent me, because I didn't know what I was getting into, um, it really took a lot of effort afterwards to put the pieces together and to really
Mm.
understand and discover that um, this is powerful healing.
Absolutely.
You have to do the work. It's not a magic pill, in the sense that I may have immediately felt the effects of um, the ayahuasca, but there was still work to be done.
Mm.
You still needed to integrate that back into your life. And I had forgotten um, that you still had to process stuff, that you still needed to have that therapist, that integration coach. And I think I would have been in a much better shape if somebody had really guided me through that. And I'm not saying that I would have allowed that, because I was pretty close minded to it. Um,
Mm.
Prior to that, I had been, in a lot of therapy at the VA or the veteran centers, and I felt like that was just a complete waste of time
Mm.
for me anyway. So
Yeah.
I didn't have an understanding, even though I had a degree in psychology and I had been an addiction coach for others in the past. I guess I really just forgot how important, having that therapy part of it is.
Right. I mean, plus it was a brand new experience as well. So I
Right.
know with my first time with ayahuasca, I went to South America and the same kind of experience. Like, I mean, I went solo, I did a little bit of research. I just didn't really understand fully, I think, what this journey was really going to be about. And then, inside that space, it was nice because they had like a therapist and a doctor and, like the shaman and some like priestess and whatnot that, did a lot of ritual and did a lot of discussions and stuff with you. And then afterwards, it's like, okay, you're on your own, go back to the United States and just figure it out, And so I didn't have any therapy or integration either. So I totally understand.
Right.
Mm.
And Pam, we are at a point now, as I'm sure that you're discovering that, that integration, and obviously that therapy afterwards is just so absolutely necessary and important.
Yes.
Um, had I known that back then, I think that, I would have been able to navigate, my healing journey a lot quicker, and been able to help other people, and really um, understood how important it was, to take care of myself. But as my journey continued, I was able to really dive into psychedelics and dive into this incredible world out there, because we can't just bottle up this ayahuasca and take it home with us, Um,
Right.
so
Not
uh,
yet. Not yet.
right,
Maybe one
not
day.
yet, and of course, there's safety issues and,
Right.
all kinds of things that go along with it. And hopefully as me and you continue, we're going to be able to, do a series on some of that and the safety and the integration and,
Absolutely.
moving forward for people.
Yes.
Um,
That's
but
definitely a big plan.
right, you asked about psilocybin, and that's where, I discovered, not right away, but I discovered that, um, possibly microdosing psilocybin, was also a tool that was able to be used in beautiful, beautiful healing
Mm,
sense that, with ayahuasca, eventually you're going to have to come out and face, the integration portion, whether you want to or not,
right.
um, you are going to face that. Those issues are going to come up. And as you're working through it, because I can't have ayahuasca in my refrigerator every day, that I really started reading the studies and learning about, the healing benefits of psilocybin, how it's working on your brain, how it's changing, the way things are transmitted in very low doses. You're very functionable. You do not even necessarily, feel it, but it's working behind the scenes.
Mm,
um and it's such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful thing.
yeah, I agree.
Now sadly, um around the country, not in all places but around the country, the biggest question is, how do I start, where do I get this, how do I source it, it's illegal, people are still, facing, um legal ramifications for having it, which becomes important to build these communities, to become self sufficient. Um, and also, that falls into play with therapists as well. Um,
Mm,
it's not like I could just walk into the VA and say, I'd like to integrate with my veteran social worker, my recent journey, of all these substances that I'm not supposed to be taking, that, potentially I could lose my benefits over. My benefits are everything. Without them, what would, I wouldn't be able to support myself or have the medical care. So there's a lot of added issues that come along
mm,
with that.
yeah. No, it's understandable. It's a big risk, but the healing is right. It's the goal and it's worth it. And you got to find those ways to advocate for yourself.
Right. And, veterans are leading the charge in that,
Mm,
what I'm finding. We're leading the charge and telling our stories for legalizing, these beautiful medications, working with therapists to get them trained on being able to provide that support. We are just on the edge of all of this happening. And it's exciting,
mm,
I believe the veteran population should have access to all of this, but I'm for access for all, for absolutely all people,
right.
should be able to have the ability to try these medications. Um, I continue doing research, on the psilocybin, and there are many different recommendations on, how to take it. Um, One of the most common is, the psilocybin in conjunction with lion's mane, which is a legal mushroom, that is showing extremely beautiful results in working with, dementia and Alzheimer's and really repairing the brain.
Mm,
Um, this becomes important for veterans because, one of the things that I left with, um, after my deployment was a TBI, traumatic brain injury,
Oh.
which is very common for
Mm,
veterans. Very, very common to have that. And I believe my traumatic brain injury was huge in a debilitating way when I came back. I just felt like my brain was scrambled. There were so many symptoms that I was having. I probably could not have had this conversation with you or anybody else.
mm,
Um, it was very difficult, and I do highly recommend starting with lion's mane, which is something that you can easily purchase that is legal, and that mushroom does just an enormous amount of work on the brain, and I believe that it has allowed um, my brain injury, my TBI, to become more manageable. I believe it's reconnecting a lot that
mm.
in my brain that I had not um, been able to connect before.
Right.
So
The neuroplasticity of it, right? Kind of healing it, rewiring it.
rewiring it, healing it, and
Mm.
again with the therapy and the integration, which I think is so
Yes.
important, you can make sense of some of that.
Mm,
You can make sense of some of that. Um, I chose to go outside of the VA for my therapy, and I've been doing that for approximately 3 or 4 years now. And sadly, I have to pay for it out of my own pocket. It's been worth it. I prioritize my care, my mental health care is like number one. I know not all veterans are able to afford that. Um, and I think since COVID, it's very hard to find,
mm,
therapists. Integration coaches who are being trained on psychedelics are beautiful as well, absolutely beautiful. To
mm,
make sure that you're getting into something like that as you start your journey
mm.
is just huge.
Yeah, I agree. Like my role that I've come into as the integration coach in our community that you know about. Um, yeah, it's been beautiful for me personally to grow and then to take my experiences and my educational background and then to hold space and help others. It's a beautiful role, and you can't get around the, the integration like you said. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's really been cool to see is how like therapy, in clinical sessions or whatnot, there's avenues, whether it's ketamine or psilocybin, things like that are just popping up and being more on the radar for people.
Absolutely. You bring up
Mm,
an interesting point. And a lot of people are not aware of this. A lot of veterans are not aware of this, but ketamine has emerged.
mm,
Ketamine is like a pseudo psychedelic, but it has a beautiful healing component to it. Beautiful healing component to it, and worked in the right settings, it can just springboard you into um, a ton of healing. And the ketamine is available to
mm,
veterans in all VAs across the country. That is one modality that veterans can access today.
mm,
Um, Sadly, there's a lot of restrictions that the VA puts on it in different locations. Currently on the East Coast, I'm out of Maine, and here you can get an actual community referral to a ketamine clinic that is run out of the hospital. There is also our main VA here who offers a different form of ketamine, esketamine treatment. Um, and there's downfalls to all of it, but it's
mm,
something and it's a start. It's absolutely a start, especially if you have a lot of stigma around going out and trying to do, ayahuasca or psilocybin. It is an option for veterans, and it's a very good, solid option for
mm,
veterans. And the good news is they're training therapists at the VA level, excuse me, to be able to work with. Um, the veterans that have chosen and are allowed to do this route.
Mm.
Um, Sadly, one of the big um, things that the VA limits, they put up a lot of blocks to who is able to get that ketamine. One of the things is you must not have a positive THC test if you're going through the VA for ketamine. If you're going through community care, they know that there is no efficacy or no problem with those two, with THC interacting with ketamine.
Mm.
It may increase a little bit of the psychedelic effects, but at least the community resources are not stopping veterans. And hopefully, we're going to have some real change on the THC here in the near future. We'll be able to get it on a national level, so we
Mm.
don't have to, limit it. I think that's in the works as well.
Mm.
That'll be good.
Absolutely.
Um, Anything that we can do, I think, is good. But ketamine is a real option for veterans to be able to start looking um, at healing in that way. And I've had veterans come to me, Pam, and tell me, we're a little nervous to start. How can we do it immediately? Um, and I have some crazy ideas on how veterans can uh, try ketamine without having to get the referral. I tell them some of those ways. When you go for a simple colonoscopy, ask for ketamine to be used. Most of the anesthesiologists are welcome to oblige you on that.
Oh, wow.
Um, And I'm telling you, I tried it that way before I even tried to get a referral through the VA just to see if it was a good fit. And I came out of the colonoscopy really happy for quite a while. Another way is through pain management. You can access ketamine through pain management. It's a little different protocol. But if you're in community cares and you're getting, which is common for veterans to get different nerve ablations or, different procedures that require you to have a little bit of um, sedative, you can always request the ketamine. Um,
Mm.
and there are doctors that are coming aboard with it and realizing that there's just a benefit to that as well.
Mm.
um, I advocate. I have veterans all over the country reaching out asking how they can access it. um, I have a document posted, I think, on Veteran Psychedelic Network about how to access ketamine. Recently, I got all the policies and procedures from the VA on ketamine. So if you educate yourself, you can know how to get those referrals a little bit easier. You can reach out to somebody like me to help get
Mm.
that going. Um,
That's so important to know, like, there's people out there that are, willing to help and trying to guide the way, because it can be overwhelming, to try and figure out where to start, like you said, and not having any answers or not knowing who to turn to. So it's pretty awesome that you have started this, to help so many.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and we're thrilled to do it. I have a lot of veterans stepping up, and after they've found the healing, they want to speak about their stories. There's certainly amazing, wonderful stories of healing out there that are
Mm.
just profound and can be hopeful to anybody trying to step into this journey. And we have expanded a lot. We are, doing wonderful things with working with you on this podcast,
Mm.
going out and speaking at different fairs. The Fungi Festival in Maine is a big one. We help organize the veteran portion of that, which we have, and we look at veteran issues in the workshops that we have out there, along with the resource table. We're careful. We don't just refer anybody to go anywhere for these treatments. We vet them.
Mm.
Um, Anything that we post about, ceremonies or retreats or, things that are upcoming, we vet. Um, we work with some really good organizations all over. Um, One of the ones that I highly recommend is Warrior Alliance out of Florida. They've been doing combat veteran ceremonies for quite a long time. Lots of faith in them. Um, lots of donations pour in to help people find um, these modalities. Cost can be
Mm.
absolutely a detriment.
Yeah.
Ketamine is very inexpensive, but if you want to go to a ketamine clinic, you're going to pay thousands of dollars.
Oh, wow.
Um, so there's other ways, and that's what we're building community for, is to find
Mm.
those other ways to make it more affordable, more accessible.
Right, because healing should be accessible to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. So I'm was kind of curious about like your kind of vision, I guess, as you were talking about it. So where like I know you do a lot, like, right, trying to like fight this battle in a sense, trying to bring it to like the legislation and stuff. I know you've done stuff with like government and like coalitions and things like that, so I didn't know if maybe you wanted to talk about that for a minute, like some of the things you've done there.
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. There, for example, there is a ballot initiative right now going on in Massachusetts, number four, ballot initiative number four, and um, we do not know if it's going to pass. We absolutely support um, all the different states in doing what they can to pass these decriminalizations or these, making psychedelics accessible. We're going to go to Boston this week and have our presence there at a rally, at a press conference. We want to be able to tell our stories. We go up there, and veterans are leading the charge right now on trying to, throughout the country. It's our stories, I think, that are important in saying we have to have this access now.
Hmm.
We serve the country. We have to have this access now. The consequence, the beauty of that is we are also advocating for access for all.
Mm.
Um, it's just, I think our stories, people are listening to the veteran story, and there is lots of change going on. There's change in, obviously, look at Colorado. Colorado is now working on regulatory compliance issues with psychedelics. And I think that this is going to be ongoing for quite a while. We're going to learn lots of lessons through it. But it's a start, and it's happening
Hmm.
all over the country. I was reading an article just the other day about um, somebody in the legislature who has found his own healing through psychedelics and now is doing nothing but trying to promote it. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm drawing a blank exactly on whose story it was, but it's posted on the page, which is another thing that we do. We post a lot of updates on what is going on throughout the country, um, legislatively, and also on the decriminalization front, which are really two different things. Um, in Colorado, when we were working on decrim, it's, really working with law enforcement and helping them to understand that um, that these offenses are not how they're seeing them. Um,
Mm.
that why are we punishing people for doing for doing the healing? Let's focus on other more severe crimes, more severe issues, and it's happening all over. Last year, the Veterans Administration, I believe, was awarded somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 million to start studying all over the country um, psychedelics. So that's huge right there.
Yeah. That's
It's
awesome.
huge. Not all Veterans Affairs know about these studies. I can remember last year when we were getting ready to speak at the Fungi Festival and we wanted to talk about it. I was reaching out to get comment on where these studies were, what is going on in our local area, and I could not find a single person that could give me that information,
Wow.
which is really sad, which is really
Mm.
sad. But it's changing, and actually on Veteran Psychedelic Network, Facebook page, I think I recently posted where all these studies are taking place and who is conducting them. Um, and I also post studies that are being conducted by John Hopkins. But uh, in the Veterans Affairs, there's studies obviously going on in California, in Colorado, in Georgia, just all over.
Mm.
Um, and recently we thought we were going to get FDA approval for the MDMA. That did not happen. There's
Mm.
a lot of reasons that didn't happen. So we're still fighting on that front too. MDMA, also like ketamine, is a powerful healing method in therapeutic doses. And, we are very hopeful to support any legislation change on that. I know there's a lot going on in Washington, or many other veteran organizations also go and speak. So it's happening, Pam. It's happening.
Mhm. That's beautiful that it is like that's why I was like you were so right about like when you try it and it like alters and changes your perception and your journey and that inner advocate comes out that just wants to keep allowing people to experience this because you know what it's done for you. And so it's hopeful, right? That we're moving in the right directions, even if it's kind of slow going.
Right. And absolutely, there is no one psychedelic that fits
Mm,
every situation, which is why education is so important.
mhm,
Because there's many different plant medications out there, many different, psilocybin, we're the ayahuasca, iboga, ibogaine. There's so many different. I mean, it's very, very small list. 5-MeO. There's just a lot of different psychedelics that have components in them that
mm,
may be appropriate for one person, but not for another.
right,
Um, so the education portion is so important, and the more that we educate as this renaissance is happening, the more people are going to be able to have a better idea of what is best for them.
right. Because there's so much, like you said, stigmas around psychedelics still that it's, bad and all these fears and things that really aren't quite the case.
Right, right. They aren't, and that's why education and just talking about this is just
Mm,
so important.
mm,
Um, I I'd wished I had had a lot more knowledge going into it, but it happened in the perfect way.
mm.
Everything happens in the perfect timing,
Yep.
and I had to go through this with the lack of education to be able to get the education to be able to pass it on to others. I think um, is where I'm at.
Mm. That's beautiful. I admire that. I really, truly do admire that.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is wonderful. Getting the word out, being able to talk about this, talking about this is absolutely imperative
Mhm.
to be able to make all of this a reality. Um,
Yeah.
the more that we talk about it and the more that we present it, the stories that are told, the more that people are going to listen and say, um, wait a minute. And I did a post on Veteran Psychedelic Network not that long ago, where we were talking about, pharmaceutical companies coming in and trying to duplicate these plant medicines, which is happening. It is happening. They're looking at how to do that. And
Mm,
my first immediate response to that is, oh no, this is not what we need. Why in the world are we trying to um, duplicate these medications? What they're going to do is they're going to capitalize on it.
mm,
It's going to be horrible. That was my first immediate reaction. And somebody on the post that I highly respect that is into psychiatric nursing and understanding said, wait a minute, don't be so quick to judge. There's some people that may not feel comfortable in doing this ever unless it is offered,
mm,
through the regulation of a pharmaceutical company. Why
Yeah.
not let people choose, um, with THC, as we've seen, there's always going to be an underground. There's always going to be an underground to it. And it's just people are going to be able to find where they feel comfortable. So why limit that? And I tend to kind of agree with that, although I don't like the idea that
Mm.
pharmaceutical companies are going to come in and charge a lot, you
Right.
know, and people are going to capitalize on it. I mean, it's already happening
Mhm.
with ketamine and with psilocybin. Psilocybin is very easy, to be able to be self-sufficient in, to be able to, grow your own, cultivate. Um, and, so there's things that we can do as a community to help
Mm.
make access better for others.
Mm. Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me, when you talk about, like, pharmaceuticals kinda taking over is, like, the spiritual connection that I personally have with when I do, medicines and sacrament and stuff like that. I think, like, I think that's my concern, like, that in some ways there's this respect and reverence, of the sacrament, right, of these plants that could get lost, and like you said, it becomes capitalized and everything. Because I think when you're doing things, like, alone, you know what I mean, for your own healing and everything, like, that's one journey for sure, and then when you bring it into, like, a community and you're doing, like, a group healing and there's ritual and you know what I mean, there's, like, this notch up, I feel like it's just such a beautiful, deep connection, and I would personally hate to see that get, like, thrown out the window.
Pam, you bring up a real interesting point, and as you were speaking, I muted because I had to just chuckle a little bit, in the sense that you are absolutely 100% um, correct, because as I hope to speak with you again, there is, I'm not sure if I'd call it a consequence, but there is an interesting um, result of doing this healing, and it is an expanded consciousness. It is
Mhm.
intention in healing, and intention is everything. And these ceremonies and retreats, and the respect and the reverence of these medications, and the intention behind how they're used in a community setting and in a ceremony, is absolutely, in my opinion, a huge part of
Mm.
the process of healing, because you're with people who are going through the same thing. I found huge amount of healing and just watching other people and helping other people
Yeah.
heal, not to mention the expanded consciousness, and what happens in changes in your life because of it,
Mhm.
um, that you're kind of implying and touching on when you're talking about the reverence and the respect and the intention, and how people are guiding these journeys. So important. My entire life has changed. There's many levels to the healing that I have found, because I have dove into it personally.
Mm.
And there has been so many unintended consequences or changes in my life and my lifestyle, how I approach everything.
Mhm.
Um, I live with way more intention. I'm way more connected in so many ways to my spirituality. Um, I think after I did my first ayahuasca journey, I think one of the things that I said in a video actually was, I hate people. I hated everybody equally when I came here. I didn't want to be around anybody. It was a horrible deployment. I just wanted to be left alone. And
Mm.
one of the immediate consequences was, or results of what I was going through is, you know, I don't hate everybody.
Mm.
Um, I did not like me. I did not like who I was. Um,
Mm.
I actually love everybody. I can be present for everybody. Um, and I think that working in the way in which you just pointed out, with the ceremony, intention, and beautiful people. that there is this incredible expanded consciousness that you get, and love that you have for other people, compassion, empathy
Mm,
for everybody.
absolutely.
Um, I spent a year of my life going back and working with everybody that I felt like I had this hatred for. Somebody has wronged me, or I wronged somebody. I spent the time to go back and make all of those relationships that I possibly could right, um, which I directly attribute to the result of working with these medications. And that was a huge lift
Mm-hmm.
off my shoulders of all that negativity and all that trauma that I had carried around. Um, I no longer have judgment for anybody on their path, and that's a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me in my life, it was a huge change.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's one of the big ones that from like ceremonies that I've been on, um, hearing other people's stories, at the end of the experience. And it's like they all of a sudden drop judgments that they had against themselves and other people, and their heart opens. They have more self love and compassion and forgiveness, which then allows to feel that for others outside of you.
Right.
So there's this beautiful like chain of events that kind of happen from just sitting in a space with the plant.
Right. And none of what we're talking about, one of the beauties of, of all the different plant medications that we're talking about is, um, when you're looking at a antidepressant, say, that
Mm,
you are given through the VA, or even some of the pain medications, but more specifically, antidepressants, that you are given, you got to take here, we're going to give you this pill. You're not going to really feel anything for 30 days. You got to take it for 30 days. There's got to be a buildup in your system.
mm,
And then, we're going to continue to work with you on therapy. And oh, you can't like get off of it right away. We're going to have to add more because you're going to have a little bit of tolerance to it. Um,
mm.
how long am I going to be on this? You're going to be on this well for forever, as long as you need it. There's no end goal here.
Right.
Um, and the way that I look at some of these plant medicines is it's a springboard. It puts you in the space to heal. When you do that ayahuasca journey, it's not a buildup. You don't have to, do it every day for 30 days. It's going to happen immediately.
Mm,
You're going to get a result of it immediately. Now, what you do with that result in working on the issues that you need to work on, it's going to allow you to do that. So
mm-hmm.
if you are continuing that journey and you're working on it, you're getting, huge benefits. I've heard it compared, and rightfully so, that one ayahuasca journey is equivalent to about 10 years in therapy.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I agree. I mean, it's true.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is true. But 10 years of therapy, if you don't baby that that work, if you don't do additional steps, if you don't, talk about it and integrate it and have the support, that 10 years of therapy, and in 20 years you could look back and say, wow, I didn't go anywhere. You do have to put in the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
Absolutely.
you have to put in the effort.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
but it's
Well,
there.
yeah. Well, we're coming up to like our end time. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out? Any
The
last
only
thoughts or anything, or any advice, or even just letting them know where to find like access to the Veteran Psychedelic Network for people that are listening that are now curious and want to know more?
Absolutely. I want to welcome everybody to our Facebook group, Veteran Psychedelic Network. You can find us there. We are not a page that sources, but our mission is, advocacy, education, and working to build a community. And we are all over the entire United States. We've got members from everywhere. It's a small group. I think we have about 300 right now. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that are going on. People do reach out. to me by my email or through Messenger. We are currently in the process of having our nonprofit approved, so we will have our websites up and running. We have secured veteranpsychedelicnetwork.org, veteranpsychedelicnetwork.com. We are just not up yet.
Hmm.
And we will be doing a lot of speaking at Maine Fungi Festival and other places we travel, around. Um, and we welcome you to just join. You don't have to participate. You can just get the benefits of the education, knowing that you're not alone. And I just welcome everybody to do that. Advice to give other people, educate, really understand what you're getting into before you get into it, because there's so many different plant medications and modalities out there that there is not one size fits all. And we will help you be able to educate yourself and take the direction um, that you want to go in. But I think the main message, and thank you for having me today, Pam, but the
Oh,
main message
absolutely.
that I want to give to everybody is, what, there is hope.
Mm.
10 years ago, I could barely function 2 hours out of the day. And now I'm pretty much working at this, 40 hours a week and doing all kinds of things.
Mm.
If I can do it, I'm telling you, there is hope. You can do it too. Please, please, listen and reach out and know
Mm.
that there is another way. And I appreciate you having me today, Pam.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so grateful that we've been able to cross paths and to connect and collaborate. And Lena and I have definitely talking about doing more episodes together, running a segment. So this one, we really just wanted to introduce, some of her background. So thank you for, being open and honest and vulnerable and sharing your personal story, which I agree, the storytelling, right? Sharing our experiences, it connects us, and it helps, right? It totally helps. And so yeah, we'll have other topics. I know we're going to talk about like morals and ethics, maybe different, like, right, like these churches, these retreats, kind of what to experience or expect or what to look for, just different things, again, to help people be educated on this beautiful community of healing. Um, it's been definitely life changing for me as well. And I'm just so grateful to, yeah, have met you on this journey. And thank you for being here.
Thank you, Pam. I'm grateful to have met you, and I look forward to more. Enjoy the
Yes,
day.
absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. And again, it's Veteran Psychedelic Network. You can check them out on Facebook for now, and or Women of Consciousness. You can reach out to us if you'd like to know more information as well. Thank you. Bye.